We are live. Welcome to episode 50 of the Dynasty Refinery. We're celebrating over 10,000 downloads here, and we're super excited for our 50th episode. You know, we started from two guys on a couch sitting right next to each other to upgrading some things here and there, but we wanted to share 50 facts with you guys today, upcoming season. Jared, how excited are you that it's been 50 episodes? We've kind of been through a lot here and there, but why don't you say something to that?
I think it's awesome. I mean, when we started this podcast, we didn't know what we were going to get to, if we were going to make 50 episodes or if we were going to,
Make five.
fail after 5 or 10 and just give up, or how we didn't know how it was going to go at all. But we've had a lot of great support from, building listens and stuff and talking with people. And it's addictive. I mean, I love the whole community and everything, and all of our listeners that, message me on Twitter, or that I've, messaged through GroupMe on, apps for leagues and stuff. It's been great. I mean, I wouldn't replace it.
Yeah, we love engaging with you guys in the community. And, I think back to that first episode, and it was like, man, this is just doesn't feel right now. Everything just feels nice and relaxed. And, we couldn't be happier with what you guys, are supporting us on Twitter, and is supporting us, by your downloads and subscriptions. And make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're starting to put a lot more on here. So let's jump right into things.
Technically, this would be 51 because our first ever episode was so bad, we opted not to even put it out. We re-recorded it. That's a little behind the scenes for the
Exactly. There were three of us, that's in the little known Dynasty Refinery fact sheet. There used to be three of us, and we recorded on a porch one time, but now we're down to two, and we're getting things done. So jumping right into our facts here, the first one I want to talk about is Christian McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey finished with 240.5 receiving fantasy points. If you take away all the rushing yards, he would have been the wide receiver 13 behind Kenny Golladay and Cooper Kupp, and slightly above, guys like Robert Woods. And I mean, it's just phenomenal, the type of season he had. On the flip side, you take Christian McCaffrey, and he had 306 rushing fantasy points. So now you put him there, and that would have finished the RB9 over studs like Chris Carson, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley. I mean, the sky is the limit for this guy. You get an RB1, you get a wide receiver 1, and that's why he is the 101.
Yeah, he's two players wrapped into one. My first fact is the Broncos and Drew Lock get the NFC South this year, and they are 12-4 against that division. Now, those teams are looking pretty tasty this year. The Bucs looking better than usual. I think they can beat the Panthers. The Saints and the Falcons are going to be tough. But, hey, if history repeats itself, Drew Lock and the Broncos could be on their way to a good start against the NFC South.
All right. Next one I got is that Austin Ekeler actually could have finished, if he had 50 less receptions in 2019, he would have gone as the RB7. But right now he's getting drafted as the RB13. So that's great value. People are starting to believe that his value is going to be down because he's going to get less work, and I can't see it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My second one is the last time the Patriots played the Dolphins, Week 1, which was in 2014, they lost, and Belichick is 1-2 overall Week 1 against Miami, which I just wanted to throw out there because I think they're going to get off to a bad start this year. History repeats itself, and the Patriots in the can with all of their dynasty assets.
They're actually predicted to win Vegas in the division on Vegas odds right now, and I can't even believe it.
Bet on that one.
I'm taking the Bills. The next one I have is Leonard Fournette. Last year finished 4th in targets with 100. In 2019, above pass catchers like Alvin Kamara, James White, and he had a 92% snap share, which was 2nd in the league. 3.6 red zone touches per game. That's 4th in the league. And he's currently been drafted as RB17 because people are fading that he's not going to finish in those things. Leonard Fournette, this is a combination one, is one of only 3 running backs to finish as an RB1 each of the past 3 seasons. Just him, Zeke, and Kamara. 2 of them are going top 5, and he's going in the end of the 3rd round. I'm taking him all day.
All right. This is a fun one. Antonio Gandy Golden. Now, I had to throw him in here because I want to talk about him. I think he is the absolute sleeper of this class and is going to be a stud wide receiver, even though nobody sees it yet. He had 1,396 receiving yards last year for Liberty. But the fun little facts here are he can also solve a Rubik's Cube in a minute. He can do a full flip while catching a football. And he bowled a perfect game 1 month after picking up bowling. So the dude is just overall talented. I want to put my mark on it right here, right now. Antonio Gandy Golden will be the alpha receiver for the Redskins. 2 years from now, you'll have a stud Kenny Golladay type of guy. Door shut and closed. Just wanted to talk about him. I had to find some facts though to be able to throw him in
I'm
here.
glad he can do a Rubik's Cube, but I'm not seeing the wide receiver
smart,
output
man.
there.
He's smart. Don't let that small school fool you, Mike.
Yeah, because there's a lot of track record there of guys from small. What is that? A cat?
Yeah, I've got this little kitten.
Did you name it Antonio Gandy Golden?
No, we haven't named this one yet, but let's keep rolling.
Yeah, next one here. So the league average for touchdowns from the 1 yard line is 59.6%. So 59.6% of the time, teams are punching it in from the one, while the Raiders rank dead last at 12.5%. With an improved offensive line, remind me again why Josh Jacobs' value isn't rising. And part two to that is, speaking of Josh Jacobs, he forced 78 missed tackles on 262 touches. That's 29.7%, which leads the entire NFL. Among the others is Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, Duke Johnson. All of them pass catchers in space. Again, why aren't the Raiders getting them the ball in open space? If they do that this year, the sky's the limit for Josh Jacobs.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that one.
And he can't do a Rubik's Cube, though. I've read that. No,
not in less than a minute. That's like genius type stuff, man. Think about how that's going to help him in his rookie year, putting up those numbers. I'll tell you what, Antonio Gandy Golden. He's worth a second right now. 2021 second. Give it up. Get him.
Or a fourth.
Or a fourth. Hey, if you can get him for a fourth. All right, my next one. Dak, Russell, and Watson were the only three QBs to finish top 10 in both 2018 and 2019. The one thing they all have in common is at least 250 rushing yards each year. Just goes to show how important those rushing yards are for those guys. And yeah, if you want that top end elite production in redraft, I guess more so, go ahead and get yourself some rushing quarterbacks if you didn't already know that one.
No, you got to have that rushing floor. We talk about that all the time. You need 250 to 300 yard rushing floor for the season just to add those extra 2 or 3 points. We talked about the elusiveness. Dead last on the elusive list out of all running backs, Sony Michel with 5% forced missed tackles. Ooh. Rest in peace, Sony. It's Damian Harris season. You mix that in with a couple James White days, maybe a random Rex Burkhead start and some other, maybe Lamar Miller. Enjoy the process, but stay away from the Patriots running backs unless it's James White in PPR.
Yeah. Ooh, Sony. In Watson's 37 starts, he has scored more points in that time than any other player.
That was a quick one. Okay.
That was a quick one. That was a very quick one.
Right.
Than any other player at quarterback, I guess I should have said. But
everyone seems to be fading Alvin Kamara here. But Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara finished as the top 10 running backs in each of their first 3 seasons. There's only ever been 3 running backs to do that. Adrian Peterson, Chris Johnson, and Clinton Portis. All 3 of them finished inside the top 10 at their 4th year as well. So book it.
All right. Last year, Kyler Murray put up the 4th most fantasy points by a rookie all time, behind only Cam, RG3, and Dak Prescott. Just to put his season last year into perspective, if you didn't understand why people are getting a little hype about him.
Next one, I'm sticking with my running backs. I kind of systematically got this in order here. Another guy that people are really down on at times, and you certainly shouldn't be in redraft, but the Titans have the 2nd easiest strength of schedule per Sports Info Solutions. Derrick Henry averages 4.1 yards per carry when they're winning or when they're losing. But when winning, he averages 5.8 yards to really pound the defense and ice the game. That means a lot when you're talking about a team that has 2nd in strength of schedule. On top of that, Derrick Henry has rushed for 1,677 yards after contact, including the playoffs, which is 225 more than anyone other than Adrian Peterson in the last 15 years, and that's, yards after. He has almost 1,700 yards after contact. We're not talking about 1,700 rushing yards last year. We're talking about after contact. In fact, 82% of his rushing yards came after contact.
Yeah, he's a man that can run through another man.
That, it's,
No better way to put it.
that's like Tropic Thunder, where he's like, I'm the dude who's playing a dude, like
It
who's
looks like a
playing another
dude.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's with Downey Jr. He's got the black face on. I
That's what I was alluding to.
All right. The only player to score more points than Ryan Tannehill in his 10 regular season starts were Lamar Jackson and Ryan Fitzpatrick. In that time period, at least. Ryan Fitzpatrick's a little bit of an oddball, but hey, just to put it in perspective there, you know.
I'm trying to skip down to where my Ryan Tannehill one is because I have.
You got a
I'm
Ryan
trying to.
Tannehill one.
Yeah, I mean, I hate Ryan Tannehill, but let's do it.
know.
All right. So if you believe, if you believe in AJ Brown, who I'm going to talk about later, he's tied to Ryan Tannehill. And say what you want about him, but according to Next Gen Stats, he was number 1 in the NFL versus pressure in 2019. In fact, he completed 55 of 79 passes under duress, which is 69.6%. That is an amazing completion percentage. I mean, if you've ever played the position of quarterback, even in the backyard, when you're under duress, 70% is ridiculous. With 761 yards and a 120.3 QB rating, tops in the league under pressure. So that's a great combination between Derrick Henry, going to be leading the charge, and not a ton of pressure on Ryan Tannehill is a recipe for success.
Yeah, I wish I would have found some third down statistics on him because he really thrived on a lot of third down. And even when they were close enough to go for it on fourth down situations, they went for it big. And that's why I think AJ Brown is such a nice asset for them and in Dynasty, because he's not afraid to go for it in those late downs. And it worked out last year. I could definitely see that continuing.
I'm glad you brought up AJ Brown. I got 2 for him. And this is like, I had it all lined up. But so according to NFL wide receivers who finished with over 900 yards their rookie year and 9 yards per target, there has only been the following group: Odell Beckham, Michael Thomas, AJ Green, Keenan Allen, Julio Jones, and Juju. This past year, we had 3 rookies: DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and AJ Brown. And the other stat I have about AJ Brown is, right now, you look at his rookie season, and it sits right up there with 2 of the best. 22 years old, 52 receptions, 1,051 yards, 8 touchdowns, almost identical to what Julio and AJ Green put up. And the reason I'm saying this is a lot of people are just predicting regression or predicting they're fading him just to fade him. And I mean, if you're putting up the same kind of stats your rookie year as AJ Green, as Julio Jones, the guy's a stud. I just traded for him in our Dynasty League, and I couldn't be happier about it.
All right. My next one is Danny Dimes had 4 28+ point games last year, and that's tied for most all time for a rookie quarterback.
I like it. Yeah, I was trying to look up some Daniel Jones ones there too, and I mean, he finished in the top 10, believe it or not, in that same stat as I had as Tannehill. The interesting thing that I read about Daniel Jones that kind of was a knock was, as many times as he fumbled, in critical situations. But sticking with rookie quarterbacks, Gardner Minshew. So I believe we're, on to the next fact here. Gardner Minshew since 2000 ranks among quarterbacks as 10th in passer rating, 11th in yards per game, 11th in rushing yards per game, 14th in fantasy points, 15th in touchdown rates, and 17th in passing points per game. We're talking about in the last 19 years, a guy who went in the 6th round. Gardner Minshew is going to put up big numbers. I know you and Stompy got all over me when I said there's a chance that in slop time he could be a QB1. You can draft him as your QB3, and he's going to put up some nice numbers.
He might. All right, my next one is only 2 RBs have finished top 3 in fantasy points. Now this kind of goes against your first one, but have finished top 3 in fantasy points 3 straight seasons: Priest Holmes and LT. So that means the odds are against CMC for finishing top 3 again this year. It's only been done twice. If he can do it again, that's miraculous. I know that you're all about like, oh, you can't predict the injury or whatever, but man, I got those like bad vibes about it this year, man. I think something happens.
No running back has ever finished RB1 back-to-back years. I mean, it's just, it doesn't happen. And there's just so many things with the running back that have to go good. I have another stat here about a running back, a guy. Reminder, Nick Chubb's good. Cleveland had an 88.8 run grade, which was second only to the Ravens last year. The interesting part of that is Baltimore had the 3rd highest run blocking grade. So that adds up. Cleveland had the 29th. So all of that was Nick Chubb. He made the defense or the offensive line look good, but the man was getting hit in the backfield. He almost rushed for, he rushed for 1,300 yards, and people are fading him right now because of Kareem Hunt. So Nick Chubb, good value.
Nice. Leonard Fournette joined 23 RBs who have had 250 plus carries as well as 75 plus receptions. Of all those RBs, his RB7 finish this last year was the worst. The second worst was an RB5 finish, and all of the rest, the other 21, were all top 3 finishes by those running backs. So he had the volume. It was the worst season a running backs ever had with those kinds of touches. And I don't know. I think that's a stat that's a little bit damning. And I like to throw out things against
the
Leonard
volume.
Fournette. I'm not a big fan of his.
The volume is there, like I said, but I mean, yeah, he didn't do it with it, but I don't see anybody else taking it away from him this year. And it's complete volume.
It just feels like they have to move him. I don't know, man. You think Gardner Minshew and they're going to win games, but I feel like they have to lose this year. They have to get rid of him. Send him to Pittsburgh. I'll get excited about him if you send him to Pittsburgh.
All right, now I'm going to get real excited. So this is a 3-part one here. So Pro Football Focus has the Colts ranked as the number 1 offensive line going into 2020. NFL Network has Quentin Nelson, their all-pro guard, as the highest rated guard in their top 100 ever at number 29. Just a reminder to all of you that Jonathan Taylor is an absolute stud, and you guys should be buying him up. He was rated at a 98 by Next Gen Stat Model using size, production, and athleticism to project placing him at an elite level score. In the last 3 years, only Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor have been put in that elite level, and it's going to happen this year. Whether it's game 2, game 3, he's going to take over, and you guys are going to be so glad you have him.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a mind-blowing year for what rookie running backs do. I feel it coming. My next one is actually Nick Chubb. I should have skipped ahead and done this one after you did your Nick Chubb, but it's also a nice rushing stat for Nick Chubb. He led the NFL last season with 79 forced missed tackles, which was most. I think you said earlier that Josh Jacobs had 78, and he missed some time.
Josh Jacobs had the highest percentage. Yeah, that
was percentage. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb had the most missed tackle, but as far as carries, attempts of exactly. So both of those guys,
one fewer forced missed tackle for Jacobs, and he probably had 50 plus less rushes. You know,
for sure.
That's just gotta love Josh Jacobs, man.
Jacobs, we're putting our stamp on him. I feel like this year, we did before, but I mean now we're getting to this next guy I want to talk about, and he's on my wall back behind me. So the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line ranks 2nd by Next Gen Stats in expected yards per carry at 4.62. So it's, assumed that they should be getting almost 5 yards per carry. Miles Sanders now enters in as one of only 3 running backs since 2007 to have 1,300 scrimmage yards and 300 return yards. The others, we're looking at Adrian Peterson and Alvin Kamara. A lot of people forget that he was returning kicks in the beginning of the year, and then they realize how valuable he was. Another stat to go with that is since 2000, only Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley, our guys from Penn State that we both love, have had 800 plus rushing and 500 plus receiving yards. And this year, he led all rookies with 13 plays over 20 yards. Miles Sanders is explosive. We're talking about those 3 guys. And I know for the last month, we have really just hammered it home with Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Taylor. But I am telling everybody now, start moving back off of Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook to those guys and get a little bit on top. And you're going to be very happy because those 3 guys are going to be RB1s this year.
This is another thing that we've kind of hammered home, but 25 wide receivers have had 1,000 plus yards last season, which is tied for the most ever. And that's just a testament to how deep it is at the wide receiver position and how you can wait and you can take your quarterbacks and running backs, especially in super flex for the quarterbacks, and still get those productive wide receivers and stash up on them late. I mean, the numbers are all time high, and look at the rookie class that came in, Jefferson, Lamb, Judy, Rager. I love all those guys. There's even more. And Gandy Golden, who I was talking about, all these guys should be productive. And I just think that wide receiver is it's so important to make sure you're not taking guys too early at positions that are going to be around later.
And we've been talking that one for a while. So, I mean, that
Yeah.
one's one that you guys definitely want to hammer those running backs home early. Moving to the tight end position, wanted to talk about, Travis Kelce might be, I mean, to me, he's the best tight end in football. I know everybody loves Kittle because he's a little bit younger. But so in the last 2 seasons, since 2018, 2019, he has had 60 plus receiving yards in 26 out of 32 regular season games. Over that time, the only player to have more 60 plus yard receiving games is Julio Jones. I mean, that is the staple of consistency. You are getting a guaranteed 10 points a week from Travis Kelce. And I don't know how many other receivers you can say that where it's guaranteed. And in tight end premium, it's almost a lock for 15 to 20 points.
Hey, let's go with another guy who's forgotten about it and hated on because everybody's, looking at those young, new, shiny pieces. Mike Evans has 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. The first player since Randy Moss, the staple of consistency, just got an upgrade at quarterback, or at least, a wash at quarterback. So, I mean, fading Mike Evans, I feel like, is kind of silly. You see him fall as late as like the 4th round these days in startups just because he's not fun and because, the emergence of Godwin. But don't fall off of him. The first player to start his career with 6,000-yard season since Randy Moss.
And there's a lot of positive hype around him at camp right now. I mean, everybody. I didn't actually even put any Chris Godwin facts in here because I know you'd harass me about it. But Mike Evans, there's no problem having both of them on your team. I get a lot of Twitter questions. I'm trying to move Mike Evans because I have Chris Godwin. Why not take 2 wide receiver ones? I mean, we talk about contested catches. Mike Evans is always up there at the top. There's a statistic where you had guys that finish as a top end wide receiver. I have it. Let me pull this one up here. Oh, you're kind of throwing me all over the place, but there were only 4 wide receivers who had top 2 finishes, as a weekly thing more than one time. And it was Mike Evans and Julio Jones were 2 of those guys, Michael Thomas. And you're getting that kind of production from Mike Evans. Yeah, he's going to disappear some weeks. He's going to have some weeks where Jared just left me, but he's going to have some weeks where he falls off a little bit. But yeah, book it, Mike Evans. Next guy you want to talk about here is tight ends. We're looking at Darren Waller. A lot of people fade Darren Waller right now, but he finished last season with 90 receptions, 1,145 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which was tied for the 18th best tight end season ever in yardage, the 19th best in receptions. But the key number is there. He only had 3 touchdowns. So look for those receptions to possibly fall. But watching the Raiders last year, he drew double teams in the red zone constantly. Now you enter Bryan Edwards, you enter Henry Ruggs, you see the consistent, uptick of Foster Moreau. Darren Waller is in for some positive touchdown regression, and those numbers are going to even out. Maybe he gets 80% of the receptions he did, but he's going to improve off of 3 touchdowns for sure. Sticking with the tight end position, and I'm going to keep rolling on here since I can't find Jared, but over the final 6 games of the season, Mike Gesicki was the tight end 7, averaging over 7 targets per game. We all know what kind of combine he had and the freakish skills that he has as far as athleticism, but he led all tight ends in red zone targets, and he's in for a pivotal breakout season. I was on a Fantasy Football JK the other day with my cousin, Casey Kasem, and we talked about tight ends you should be taking. And if you guys aren't getting those early ones, if you're not getting Kelce, Kittle, Ertz, or Andrews, wait and take Mike Gesicki. You will thank me later, but Mike Gesicki is this year's breakout tight end, and he's going as tight end 14 to 15 range according to Fantasy Pros. So that's a guy you guys want to invest in for sure. Moving on to the quarterback position, we all know the kind of season that Lamar Jackson had. I mean, he's nearly missed being the best quarterback season of all time by 1.41 fantasy points. He had 7 plus 30-point games. But listen to this. If he only played the first 3 quarters of games last year, he would have finished as the QB2 overall, only 4 points behind Dak. Think about that. If he only played 3 quarters of his games, if he sat down in the beginning of the 4th quarter, he would have had more points than any quarterback. I mean, that's how special he was last year. So don't fade Lamar Jackson just because you say he can't do it again. I mean, he's out here to prove us wrong. Is he going to put up top, those kind of numbers again? Probably not, but I'm not going to be the one to bet against him. The next Lamar Jackson stat I actually have is he joins the list of Patrick Mahomes in 2018, Peyton Manning in 2013, Tom Brady in 2007, Tom Brady in 2011, Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers in 2007 as the elite 390 plus fantasy points club. The next season, none of them have, or actually their entire career, none of them have ever repeated getting 390 fantasy points again. So it's going to be a difficult and uphill climb, but I'm not the one to bet against Lamar Jackson. Over the final 8 weeks of the season, Drew Brees was the QB1, and he did it with his best playmaker, Michael Thomas. If you look at the difference in stats between him and the wide receiver 2 on the Saints last year, who was Ted Ginn, yeah, that's rough. You get a stat line of 119 catches, 1,034 yards, and 7 touchdowns, which would have been good enough for wide receiver 2 overall in the league. So we're looking at a guy who, he basically carried the team, and now he gets Emmanuel Sanders there. Drew Brees numbers, I mean, right now, according to Fantasy Pros, he is going as the QB9. He should be a top 5 quarterback. I mean, I cannot name you 5 guys that I want on my redraft team better than Drew Brees. Next one on here, I'm just spouting them off until Jared bounces back in the room. I'm not sure. He was probably out on a smoke break. But the highest graded inside the 10-yard line rusher from 2019, according to PFF, was not a running back. It was Josh Allen. Josh Allen was phenomenal. He was able to, the things he was able to do inside the 10-yard line, rushing the ball, passing the ball. But everybody looks at those rushing stats and they say that he cannot duplicate the same kind of things. So Josh Allen is looking at, he was supposed to accuracy. Everyone, we're going to have to start that part over. But so we're talking about Josh Allen and his supposed accuracy issues inside the 10-yard line. But Josh Allen finished between Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson, who are considered 2 of the top guys in the game, with 10 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Welcome back, Jared. Definitely going to have to do some editing, but welcome back. Hey. I burned off like 10 of them here. So,
my cats unplugged me, but I bet you thought I went for a smoke break, didn't you?
That's what I said. I
figured you probably thought I just got up. I was like, on a smoke break.
I figured some of those facts that I've been dropping you are just as good as sex. So you need to.
I had to run. No, these stupid cats. I look over and they unplugged me, and it's just a mess. But they're cute, so it's okay. So, should I do one now?
I'll redo the one I just did because we're definitely gonna have to edit that. But so the highest graded rusher inside the 10-yard line from 2019, according to PFF. Any guesses on who that might be? Highest graded running.
Since when?
This past year. It's Josh Allen. Josh Allen had the highest PFF graded running the ball inside the 10. The next part is everyone says he has accuracy issues, but Josh Allen finished right in between Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson for completion percentage inside the 10-yard line with 8 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He may not be great with those intermediate passes, but in the red zone, deep ball, Josh Allen is a top 10 quarterback in this league.
Okay. Yeah. And my next one is about a receiver that I am not too fond of. And that's DJ Chark. Started hot last year.
Oh, whoa. That's my all right. I can't wait to drop mine afterwards.
Okay. He was a top 5 receiver. He was a top 5 receiver in the first 5 weeks from week 6 on. He lost that fire. He lost that flame. And he topped 20 fantasy points only 1 week after being wide receiver 5 after the first 5 weeks. So, he dropped off. I feel like he showed his true colors. He came out hot. He's one of the, Mike, we talked about this a lot last year, these speed guys. Remember, we said they oftentimes have a lot of this early success,
Yeah, but that's more of like a Paris Campbell type guy. We're looking at DJ Chark. I'm going to argue back here. This is going to be my fact back. DJ Chark is a 6'3" receiver, So my fact, and we could throw a side bet on here for Waffle House 2.0. We could get a second time on there. But DJ Chark is my guy this year. DJ Chark slotted inside the top 10 in wide receiver red zone targets with 34, and he led all with end zone targets with 11. Jay Gruden is hyping this guy up to be the next AJ Green, and it's hard to believe right now he's going as the wide receiver 25 in redraft. I keep saying this on every podcast I go. I keep saying it on our podcast. Draft the wide receiver ones on their team as your wide receiver threes. I have DJ Chark as a top 12 wide receiver this year.
Oh.
You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. Hey,
now I need a cigarette, bro.
From the guy who's hyping up Antonio Gandy Golden, who he's not even gonna start.
Man, I call Galladay, and I wish we had this podcast back then. I see a lot of Galladay in this man. I think he is extremely talented, and that Rubik's Cube thing, that just put it over the edge, bro.
If you can do a back, I think he did a backflip, Rubik's Cube, while doing a backflip. So, I mean, it was impressive.
He caught a touchdown during the whole thing, too, which was the best part of it. It was a whole big thing. All right, now I got a few interesting ones here.
Let's hear them.
Mecole Hardman led all receivers last year with a 146.6 passer rating when targeted. That's a stat that I haven't actually heard thrown around too much, but when he's having his balls thrown to him from Patrick Mahomes with a guy like Tyreek Hill, the only thing standing in the way of him being an absolute wide receiver one stud.
Oh yeah.
I think, the upside's unlimited there.
I actually had that one.
It's getting really red.
I know. No, I had that. My girlfriend's giving me some looks. No, I actually had that one as my number 36. I had Chiefs Mecole Hardman set the wide receiver pace at 20.7 yards per catch, 2.77 fantasy points per target, as well as the highest passer rating that we've ever seen at 146.6, like you said. So my boy FF Mang, he's always saying Mecole Hardman, is going to be, a wide receiver 2 this year. And I've been fading it, but he's going to take over for Sammy Watkins, sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I mean, being able to, I know a lot of it is unsustainable type numbers, but give him some more targets. I mean, I think his sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got Tyreek, and obviously it doesn't help that Clyde came in this year, the best receiving back that we've seen in a while come out, but it's Patrick Mahomes. It's the Chiefs offense. Like, they can feed some mouths, and as soon as a guy goes down, whether it's Kelsey, whether it's Tyreek, whether it's, Clyde, whoever it be, he's automatically a must start, a high-end flex, a wide receiver 2, each one of those weeks. Just so much upside with that man being tied.
I took him in all 5 of my startups, and I've traded him in a couple of them because I've kind of soured a little bit, and I got decent return, but he's a nice piece to have especially in a rebuild process.
Yeah. I want to bring him up just because that Sammy Watkins re-signing back when kind of, gave people a bad taste in their mouth with him. But is it your turn or my turn?
It's your turn. No, it's my turn. Well, you went with Mecole Hardman. I'm going to talk about another receiver here. Hollywood Brown is his projected 2019 season after the first 4 games would have been something like 67, 1,043 and 10 touchdowns, but nagging injuries really held him back. And to your point, where we were talking about guys that are burners that, kind of struggle because they're smaller, Marquise Brown is the guy that we were talking about with that. But now you look, he put on 23 pounds of muscle, and they put his regimen online today, and it was like 730, 4 raw eggs. Then it was 930 protein shake. And then it was like 1130. Some kind of protein and like the dude he's incredibly committed to what he's trying to do. Put on 23 pounds of muscle in the offseason and still runs a 4.3, and he put the video out there. Again, right now he's going as the wide receiver 31. Get those wide receiver 3s that could be wide receiver 1s on their team. I think Hollywood Brown, who I have on my Scott Fishbowl team, is going to win some people some leagues as long as he stays healthy.
No, absolutely. All right, so Mark Andrews led all tight ends this season. We're going to talk about another Raven here. This season with 11 end zone targets, as well as targets per route with 36% of targets. He was targeted on 36% of his routes, which is crazy. They had Hayden Hurst and Nick Boyle there. And, they had a bunch of guys rotating last year. He didn't get the full reins at tight end, even though he saw a majority of the work. He's going to be unleashed this year even more. And in my opinion, I know you spoke the world of Kelsey, and I agree. He's been the best tight end over the last 6 years. But I think that Mark Andrews is my tight end one this year. After I talked so much shit last year saying that
I was
Chris
calling his
Herndon,
breakout.
I
I was
know.
calling his breakout. You know what? That's actually my next stat. Is I had Mark Andrews ran a route of ran routes on 70% of his snaps. So he was a wide receiver. He was not a tight end last year,
Right.
and he was injured most of the year. I mean, he had nagging injuries on the injury report every time, and I wrote, is tight end 3 in dynasty and tight end 4 in redraft, is that too low? You know, so I feel like we're both kind of seeing him move towards that top there. And
yeah, the
another
thing
season like
is
this,
I'm
he could
not
challenge
taking
Kittle.
Kelsey. I'm not taking Kelsey earlier or for more money. I'm not taking Kittle for earlier or for more money, or even Ertz if he falls in that category still. I'm waiting and I'm taking Andrews around later or 10 salary dollars cheaper. You know what I mean? Because he's the guy that I'm pretty sure is going to either be the tight end 1 or a top 3 for sure.
Well, I said while you were gone, I was on Fantasy JK, and I was saying if I don't get one of those big 4, Mike Gesicki's my guy at like tight end 14, 15. So if you don't get those early ones, push back. So let's move into let's talk about the Bengals a little bit. Zach Taylor loves to keep the pace up. The Bengals went from 30th in plays per game to 9th last year. Why is that big for fantasy football? Because they're going to be on the field more. Joe Burrow, another reminder, he's really good. Just smashed all the records, 5,600 passing yards, 60 touchdowns. The touchdown record for rookie quarterbacks will be broken this year. I have a strong feeling that Joe Burrow, that is
a freaking fact, bro.
Well, the fact that Joe Burrow is good. So, it's going to be an exciting time for Joe Burrow.
Things, man. Hell yeah. I got a little boring one here, but it's a guy that I like, so I wanted to throw it in. And that's Will Dissly, led the league in passer rating when targeted with a passer rating of 146.7.
People forget about Will
the guy that if he's on the field, he has put up tight end 1 numbers every game. He had 2 off games where he had a nagging injury and then ended up leaving early, but he puts up 20 plus fantasy points every game he plays.
Yeah, he was top 5 before he went in. And I'm glad you said that because my next one's Seattle. I have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett were among the top 5 in red zone targets in 2019. Here's the interesting part now. Tyler Lockett had 23 targets and had 17 receptions. DK Metcalf had 17 targets, but only 5 receptions, 4 of them for touchdowns. So trusting that he's going to grow a little bit, get some refinement, if you will. Watch out, because DK Metcalf is about to explode this year. DK Metcalf is going to take over as the wide receiver 1 in Seattle, and he's going to put up a phenomenal season, which is going to make you guys so happy that you've been listening to us for the last 12 months saying how you got to go buy DK Metcalf.
I like it because I've heard people saying like, hey, if you're redraft, you still go Lockett. DK is the future, but you still go Lockett. I don't agree with that at all. I think DK is the man this year.
I put it on Twitter the other day.
Wait a year. No.
I mean, no, Tyler Lockett is going in the 4th round and DK Metcalf's going in the 5th in redraft. I mean, give me the guy with the touchdown upside. I mean, Tyler Lockett is going to do his thing, and he's incredibly efficient. But I think DK Metcalf's going to catch double-digit touchdowns this year. He caught 9 last year, and he really showed what you and I talk about it all the time. But that Eagles playoff game, and it was a dagger to the heart, but he took over. Like he just unleashed, and the guy, when he gets the targets, is a absolute monster.
Yeah. I mean, DK was a fucking rookie last year. Just remember that. Like, look at what Russell Wilson was able to do with Tyler Lockett, who's a pretty good receiver, with Doug Baldwin, who was an okay receiver. I mean, DK is a monster, and I think they're going to do very good things together here. Okay.
We got room for 6 more to get to 50.
Okay.
I've been mentally keeping track. I know one of our listeners is probably going to count them and be like, Mike, you missed it. But, hey, it's been a long day. I've been up since 5. We're just banging some things out.
All right. I guess I'll do. Okay. Since entering the NFL, Eckler is 3rd amongst RBs and fantasy points per touch. Okay. That's kind of crazy. I mean,
you put that with what I was saying. And I mean, Austin Eckler is just, I don't understand the fading of Austin Eckler. I mean, you take away 50 receptions,
proves that he's just going to put up numbers.
And we all know that receptions are worth, almost a 1.5 difference than a regular carry. And he's not going to get 250 carries, but he's going to get 200, and he's probably going to get 100 targets. And that's what you want.
At this point, I'm kind of looking at him like Darren Sproles back in his prime, where
But
you were
good.
like, Sproles is like, he's not a top elite end player, but he's gonna put up elite numbers because of the way he's used. And he's just, I mean, Eckler was amazing in the open field last year. He's a speedy, he's an actual athlete. He can make guys miss. He's fast as hell. I mean, I love Austin Eckler. I think that
I
I
think
agree with you. He's a good asset to
I
have in
think Tyler
Dynasty.
I think Tyrod Taylor being the starter, and we know last time he played with Cleveland, he looked horrible and they had to go to Baker. And I know he doesn't target the running backs, but you know who does? Justin Herbert. And he's a top 5 pick. He started 4 years in college. How long are they going to let Tyrod Taylor
Yeah.
play before they're like, it's Justin Herbert time? And what's the best, remedy for a new quarterback? It's tight ends and running backs he can dump off to. And I think Austin Eckler, you guys are fading him way too much.
Yeah,
I like
and Justin Herbert is smart, like genius smart, all right? He knows who he should be thrown to.
So sticking in that same kind of area, we talked about Baker taking over for Tyrod. So Baker Mayfield, he's come to camp hungry this year, roaring to get back. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, obviously. But I want to talk about week 5. So week 5 versus the Niners, I found this stat and it blew my mind. Versus the Niners, he would have had a higher passing rating if he would have spiked the ball on every play. Can you believe that? Like if he spiked the ball and had all incompletions, he would have had a better game because of all his interceptions. That being said, Stefanski has done great things for quarterbacks with much lesser talent. Case Keenum set career best in 2017 under Stefanski with he was the 8th highest graded quarterback, the 8th best wins above replacement, a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio with 67% completion percentage. So that's just a little insight to this possible Baker bounce back that you and I have both been talking about for a while.
Absolutely.
And, I'm not putting him where I had him last year, but
No.
Baker Mayfield is still in our top 12 quarterbacks for Dynasty.
Yeah, he jumped up too high too quick, but I agree. This is the Baker year. This is the time you want to buy him because he's going to jump up in value very quickly. I love Baker this year. Stefanski is going to be a total difference because Kitchens was a joke, an absolute joke. This is an interesting little fact. We got all these speedy guys we talk about, Hollywood Brown, Tyreek Hill, so on. But who topped the league last year, you think, and the most times recorded over 20 miles per hour on the field? At 7 times. They missed time as well.
That's incredible. I mean, whoever that is, they're flying. I know Miles Sanders
did
it
a
couple. I know Sanders did it a couple times. Waller did it once. You said it's not Tyreek Hill.
Nope. This one's actually pretty obvious if you think about it, but I think you need my help here. Phone a friend.
Let's do it.
Our boy from Penn State, Saquon Barkley.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, those guys.
With how big he is, it's just like you look at him and you're like, how can a man that big be moving faster than a guy like Hollywood Brown, who's just built for speed? But let's not forget who, in my opinion, is the real RB1 here. Even over Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley is going to have a monster year.
I just see so much in the athleticism profile and the speed with Taylor. If he could catch the passes,
yeah.
I mean, the next running back I wanted to talk about, obviously you and I love Todd Gurley this year, and he had that production dip in 2019 from what he did the 2 years before that. But I mean, over 1,000 all-purpose yards, 14 touchdowns. But Todd Gurley, there's some silver lining here. So he was 4th in the NFL versus stacked boxes, 8 men in the box, 4th in missed tackles during those stacked boxes. And he had 3.4 yards per carry with stacked boxes, 2.9 of those which came after contact. So the moral of the story is the Rams offensive line is horrible and Todd Gurley isn't. This is a season where Todd Gurley is going to get run into the ground by the Falcons. They're going to use him. And if you can buy him for a late first on your contender, go do it now.
Yeah, and that's a good team to be tied to if you're a running back because they will provide open space. This one you're really going to like. This is your boy right here, your league winner, but the only wide receiver with 150 plus receptions and a drop rate of less than 1% in the last 2 years is Sir Robert Woods.
You're on to the fact that he got knighted now?
Yes.
Yeah,
I've been knighting a lot of Rams. I don't know why.
I know you. I've been hearing you put a lot of guys just randomly in the knighthood. So on my last one, it's a 2-parter again because I've been trying to combine all of my 50 into 25. So the Lions are the only team in the NFL with 2 wide receivers in the top 5 contested catches over the past 5 years with Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay. Why is that important? Matthew Stafford was on pace for 40 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, and to be the quarterback 2 last season before injury. He's going as the QB 12 in redraft. And that's a guy that if you wait on quarterback, you are going to be very happy to see what happens with Matthew Stafford this season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why you should believe in Galladay this season as well.
If you play, and I've been on a bunch of pods lately, and I said if you play in half point PPR or standard league, Kenny Galladay has a chance to be wide receiver 1. I still feel like he finishes in that wide receiver 5 to 8 range.
Yeah. It's like my love for Chubb. If you're playing non PPR, like I still think he's going to be great and he's a great own, but I think it's got to be that right scoring to really make him elite.
I think we'll make that the title of this episode, Jared's love for Chubb.
Oh, my love for Chubb. All right. So for number 20, or well, that's my number 21. I don't know why I'm reading numbers all of a sudden. How many do I have left, Mike?
One.
Have you lost? Oh, all right. All right. Well, I'm going to do it on a Cowboy. All right. So from week 9 on, after returning from injury, Gallup led the Cowboys in target share, reception yards, and receiving TDs. So, a lot of people are trying to fade Gallup. I still like him. For a little while, I was totally off of him because I just love Lamb that much. And I still love Lamb. I just want to believe that something's going to happen. Something's going to work out. And Gallup is still going to be a wide receiver 2 this year. And hopefully a high-end wide receiver 2. He could put up more numbers than Amari. I really believe that.
I got another, movie quote here. We did Tropic Thunder, but you keep saying I love Lamb. Makes me think of Anchorman. I love Lamp. But we both love Lamb. Michael Gallup.
I love Lamb.
Do you really love Lamb?
I love Lamb.
That's right. But I mean, Mike McCarthy went out and said that he believes that Michael Gallup is a wide receiver 1 in this league. I saw he reported that today. And as soon as Lamb got drafted, he got pushed onto the back burner. And Gallup is a steal. I got him in the 16th round of FFPC. You're able to get him late in a lot of drafts. So
before that, he was going in like the 7th, 8th round, 6th, 7th.
Exactly. Fact number 50 is the Dynasty Refinery just reached download 10,000, and we appreciate all of you guys. We love the, all the support that you guys have given us over the past, year, the bumps, the bruises, everything along the way. But you guys have been there as great, steady fans, and we totally appreciate you guys. We got nothing but love back for you guys. Any parting shots there, Jared?
No, absolutely. I agree. I love the support and man, it feels good. We didn't know if we were ever going to get to this point, but it feels great to say we accomplished our 50th episode and we topped it off with 50 facts.
There you go. I don't think we'll be able to fit 100 facts next year when we get to a full 100, but exactly. So that is a wrap for episode 50. Once again, you guys can find us on Twitter. You can find me at Dynasty_Dad FF. You can find Jared, even though it doesn't say it on the screen, at Dynasty Refinery. Just says Jared.
I'll do it next time.
So, guys, we want you to encourage you guys to wake up and rise and refine those Dynasty rosters. Thanks for tuning in. Don't say deuces yet. I got to hit it in broadcast. Got a lot of editing on this one. You disappear.